Good morning and welcome to today's Centurion Research Solutions webinar on the critical elements of a successful business development process. I'm your host, Rich Thielen, General Manager here at Centurion. I appreciate everyone joining us for what will be an information-packed session. A little bit of background on Centurion. We track 20,000 plus federal government opportunities across multiple vertical markets. We provide leading-edge business intelligence that informs your business development efforts. Our Opportunity Assessment Now tool enables you to perform detailed, predictive analysis of your pipeline that results in an increased win probability. We offer custom research and analysis, pipeline development, along with custom training. These services have been created with one thing in mind, helping you, our clients, win business. This is the second in your Government Contractor Knowledge webinar series to be conducted by Mike Lisagor, Centurion's Government Business Development subject matter expert. Mike founded CelerityWorks in 1999 and has been helping executives accelerate their revenue growth for decades. We are recording today's event. An on-demand copy as well as a copy of the slides will be available at the end of this presentation, and then the on-demand copy will be available tomorrow on Centurion's website. Finally, in consideration of your busy schedules, we will be continuing this discussion at our company LinkedIn profile right after the conclusion of today's webinar. That link will also be provided at the end of the briefing. So without further ado, Mike, take it away.
Thank you, Rich, and the hundreds of you who have joined us today. I'm going to concentrate on the key elements of a successful business development process, one of the 6 key business growth tactics. I'll do my best to cover many of the questions from the registration forms, but we'll be happy to respond via email, and we'll answer some of them on our LinkedIn group after today's presentation. But first, before diving into the BD process, I'd like to debunk some common government sales mythology. The first myth is that the job candidate who promises you substantial business in the first 6 months. The fact is that rainmakers are a poor substitute for a sound business growth strategy. Also, beware the chief executive officer who expects this kind of quick result as a new player in the government market. New market entrants should expect to spend 3 to 6 months just figuring out what's what. Myth number 2 is that after just a few sales calls, the orders will come rolling in. In reality, unlike a commercial enterprise, government agencies may have a cadre of stakeholders and influencers. Each of these people needs to be visited and convinced that your company is reliable and can meet their program requirements. This doesn't happen overnight and can take considerable overhead and patience, but the rewards are substantial. Myth number 3 is similar, but equates a GSA schedule with automatic success. And while it's true that most companies will benefit from having a GSA schedule, many federal government contractors also now require subcontractors to have a schedule. But even with a schedule, companies need to implement the steps I'm going to discuss today to succeed. The fourth myth is that you don't need to spend money on marketing. But now more than ever, articulating how your solutions meet unique government challenges and program requirements is critical. This takes professional marketing campaigns that include social media and, where appropriate, active participation in industry and government, associations, and conferences. Regarding myth number 5, I once had a chief operating officer who every morning forwarded me random requests for proposals and asked why I wasn't responding to them. At the end of the week, my trash can would be full. The sad truth is that companies that count on winning more than a small percentage of these type of blind bids would be better served investing their money in Vegas. On the other hand, there are many commodity-type sales that only require responding to a request for quote. It is important to appreciate the difference. There are many similarities between commercial and government business sales. Both require you to make cold calls, attend trade shows, networking events, and partner with complementary vendors. The commercial sales cycle is usually much faster, less formal, and easier for the buyer to process, but also more vulnerable to budget impacts. In the government, there are often many more end users, subject matter experts, decision makers, contracting officers, and program managers involved in a longer sales cycle. Meeting with these individuals can pose a more difficult challenge. Also, issues such as past performance and contract vehicles come into play. Along with stricter regulations, these factors add time to the process as well as paperwork and money. However, the return on investment and the market stability are worth the effort. The complexity of your BD process should correspond to the size and sophistication of your services. However, some degree of a process is critical to maintaining a consistent growth curve. This is a very simplified government BD process diagram. As you can see, there are 5 phases and 5 key corresponding review and approval milestones or events. The lead capture review shown here might only be necessary for more complex bids. The first phase in the BD process is the identification of a sales lead. A majority of new business leads come from relationships, government bid announcement websites like FedBizOps, market research firms, and lead tracking services. I'll be talking a little more about relationship selling and also share some examples of market research products during this presentation. Most of these guidelines apply to pursuing single contract awards and task orders on existing contract vehicles as well. Small businesses will want to acquaint themselves with their target agency's small business advocates. Often, but not always, these individuals can be very helpful in pointing you in the right direction and letting you know about upcoming procurements. There are numerous procurement technical assistance centers, or PTACs, across the country. They can be helpful to companies new to this market. Business development professionals at other contractors can be a great source of market intelligence. Meetings with these individuals should be part of your contact strategy. And consultants with agency contacts and knowledge can be a real asset. One impact of the tightening of federal budgets is that federal managers are even more reluctant to entertain cold calls. However, they are usually receptive to learning about how your solution relates to their problem. So do your homework before visiting them. You can gain information and introductions from outside by referral from other government contacts, through agency small business offices, and by participating in industry association activities that involve government managers. You can also invite potential government buyers to a free workshop or a seminar. I would encourage you to be active in social media forums like govloop.org and LinkedIn groups. Finally, BD staff should maintain a contact plan that includes the name, agency, position, and key message of each person who will be contacted in the following month or quarter. Also indicate who will be making the call. Government relationships, like any others, require nurturing, and it is also one of the best ways to learn about an opportunity before it is released. This table illustrates a typical opportunity list derived from a keyword search on architectural engineering from the Centurion BI Now database. BI Now concentrates on sales leads that are 3 to 9 months out, so that clients have sufficient time to position themselves for competition. It contains the information necessary to identify opportunities that fit your business profile. Searches can be limited by agency, geography, services, and small business status. During the last webinar, I discussed the importance of defining your product, services, and target agency strategic envelope, what you will chase and what you won't. I've watched too many companies, large and small, waste considerable amount of their precious business development budget chasing new business opportunities that a simple pursuit review would eliminate. One example is chasing too many task order contract vehicles without having the resources to grow them after award. A healthy BD process has an established mechanism for maintaining its focus and, where appropriate, saying no. Shown here is a simple pursuit decision matrix that I have implemented for numerous government contractors. It helps take the emotions out of the decision-making process. To be successful, this process requires a commitment by senior management. Once a new business lead has been identified and the decision made to pursue it, the lead enters the qualification phase. And this is where the fun begins, and the challenge too. The essence of qualification is data collection. At most larger companies, a business development professional with prior experience with the target customer will lead this activity. In other companies, the BD responsibility resides with the project manager or a consulting professional. The purpose of this phase is to gather the marketing intelligence necessary to inform a decision whether to commit more significant resources to capturing the business. These are several of the questions that need to be answered during this phase. The necessary data is usually collected from market research firms, prospect visits, agency websites, and meetings with business development professionals at other firms. Here is an example of an opportunity report for a Navy Seaport E architectural engineering sales lead. It provides valuable information, such as who is the client and what is the name for the opportunity. What is the acquisition type and statement of work? Who are the incumbents? What are the key acquisition milestones, the dollar value, the current acquisition phase, and the key government contacts? All of this contact information is necessary to determine if the lead is a fit for your company. Once sufficient information has been collected, a lead qualification review is conducted. Typically, the BD professional will present the key marketing data, either using the lead tracking system or a PowerPoint presentation. A decision is then made whether to transfer the responsibility of capture to the lead and the line organization with support from the business development, or to engage a sales engineer, or in some companies to leave the capture responsibility with the same individual who qualified the lead. Centurion has identified 7 major elements of a successful capture initiative. Make sure the key customer requirements can be identified, verified, and related to a successful solution, as well as the likely evaluation criteria. Sufficient communication with the client and market research needs to be performed to ensure that your proposed solution is consistent with the client's perspective. More than ever, there is a need to have the ability to identify the competition and quantify the probable evaluation score of your team versus theirs. Teaming partners, prime or subcontractor, must be carefully selected so that they increase your evaluation score. The management and technical approach needs to meet or exceed the statement of work and evaluation criteria, while your past performance and key personnel should demonstrate relevance and credibility. Competitive pricing and client award history needs to be identified along with a price to win that is substantiated by quantifiable data. A tool like Opportunity Assessment Now can significantly inform this process. Before diving into the capture process, I'd like to say a few words about win probabilities. There are a variety of ways to calculate the odds of winning a competition. This table describes some very general win probability guidelines for each BD phase. You can modify it to fit your previous company sales experience. You should take into account the risk that the government will fund and follow through with the procurement, as well as your company's competitive position. The more current and company historical data that is collected, the more accurate your win probability estimates will be. Conservative probability estimates will help your organization avoid inflated sales and revenue projections. The analysis of the capture strategy and the odds of winning an opportunity have been much more an art than a science for as long as I've been in the government market, which dates back to the late 70s. Company executives need the ability to objectively review and measure the probability to win an opportunity, as well as the overall health of their sales lead pipeline. This is an example of a pipeline ranking report within the Opportunity Assessment Now tool. This is an analytical tool that utilizes statistical and quantitative analysis to drive fact-based decisions and actions. This can have a significant impact on overall company win rates by increasing the probability of winning and decreasing costs and improving efficiency. In this report, an executive can easily see where their strengths and weaknesses lie within each opportunity. The purpose of positioning activities is to positively influence the customer prior to the release of the request for proposal. Action should be taken to establish strong relationships with all key client decision makers and influencers, demonstrate technical insight, get the PM and technical experts wanted by the client, form the right team of subcontractors, develop and communicate a creative, workable solution to the client's problems, and influence the statement of work with your company's discriminators through white papers, contacts, and unsolicited proposals. The purpose of understanding the competition is to gain the insight necessary to formulate a strategy and assemble a team that will beat them. This slide lists several sources of competitive information. A few of these are research databases, agency website listings of contractors and budget forecasts, freedom of information requests, trade magazines, and outside consultants. Searching for already awarded contracts is another way to gather valuable competitive data. Here is a simple table that you can use to evaluate the competitive landscape. Identify all companies that you believe might or will bid on this opportunity. Use high, medium, and low, or a numerical scale to rate each company or team's relevant competitive strengths. Then ask yourself, how can your company offset their strengths and take advantage of their weaknesses, or maybe even team with a strong competitor to eliminate them as a competition? There are many reasons companies form a team to bid on a specific competition. Some of these are to add a large, more credible company or missing capabilities, to fill a key personnel requirement, to take a competitor off the street, to satisfy a client stated or unstated preference for the involvement of an incumbent company or local presence as part of a broader strategic teaming arrangement with another company. And finally, to fulfill a socio-economic status requirement, either for the prime contractor or as a percentage of the contract value. There are other viable teaming arrangements, such as joint ventures, but these are beyond the scope of today's webinar. Being a subcontractor or a prime contractor can be very challenging. Having been involved in hundreds of teaming arrangements, I've collected numerous and sometimes painful lessons learned. Several of these are listed on this slide. I will explore many of these in much greater depth during a teaming and subcontracting strategy and lessons learned webinar on January 10th. Some of these are discussed in my book, Winning and Managing Government Business. The distinction I would like to make today is between being a teaming partner and being a subcontractor, which is often confused. Prior to contract award, you are considered a teaming partner, and your relationship with the potential prime contractor is defined in a formal teaming agreement. The same is true if you're the prime contractor with your potential subcontractors. After award, you will negotiate a subcontract and be a subcontractor or the prime contractor. Determining the price your company needs to bid to win is a critical component of the capture phase. This activity should begin, where possible, well before RFP release. The pricing complexity varies greatly between product, software, hardware, and services contracts. The opportunity lead, whether a BD professional or a capture manager, along with the pricing lead's assistants, should gather competitive pricing information as well as prior agency award history. Some of this information can be found in market research companies like Centurion and through freedom of information requests for previous contracts and proposals. It can also be inferred sometimes from company-published GSA schedule rates, keeping in mind that these rates are often discounted further. There are also consulting companies that can help with pricing strategy. Different contract types pose different pricing risks. For instance, a fixed price contract should usually be priced more conservatively than a time and materials contract. Incumbent contractors often inflate their bid price because they know too much about how the project should be executed. Consider your company's ability to meet the contract's requirements at the price to win. Is it worth your risk? Clearly, striking a balance between aggressive bidding and financial risk is a key pricing challenge, and typically, the better competitive pricing insight and customer award history, the more successful your bid. So hopefully, a lot of hard work has gone into preparing the bid to bid an opportunity when the RFP is released, or maybe not. Either way, often after several delays and maybe draft requests for information, the agency will release a formal request for proposal or quote. In my experience, this is one of the weakest points in most companies' sales process. The number of companies that lack an institutionalized RFP analysis and bid decision process is astounding. Yet these two activities are the linchpins of both whether a bid is worth pursuing, and if so, understanding exactly what the government has asked for and what actions you still need to take. After reviewing the RFP to determine whether there are any special government requirements or clauses that your company or team just cannot satisfy, then a meeting or teleconference should be conducted with participation from the key company organizations to discuss your company's relative competitive strengths. Each of these factors should be carefully and unemotionally weighed. Centurion's Opportunity Assessment Now product supports this type of decision making. But if nothing else, a simple Word or Excel table will enable you to carefully quantify whether to bid an opportunity by comparing it to different factors, and if so, what weaknesses have to be corrected. The exact design of a proposal schedule will depend on several factors, such as the complexity of the proposal requirements, whether you have prior experience with this type of bid, and the proposal due date. Here is a generic schedule with key activities and reviews that you can download by close of business today on the briefing slides. Time spent laying out a concise schedule with due dates is time well spent. I'd like to briefly discuss the major steps necessary to develop a winning proposal. In particular, make sure you thoroughly analyze all sections of the RFP. I am always surprised how many contractors submit a proposal without having carefully read the request for proposal or quote. Build a request for proposal requirements traceability matrix and include some form of this matrix in the proposal to assist the government reviewers. Prepare streamlined storyboards or a detailed outline with themes and major graphics before starting to write. Assign writing page number goals. Otherwise, engineers will write forever. Make sure resumes and project summaries highlight keywords from the RFP and that they meet the minimum requirements. And finally, conduct thorough proposal reviews with the same reviewers in all the reviews to avoid costly redirection at the final review. It's amazing to me how many contractors begin writing complex proposals without first having a well-planned kickoff meeting. This meeting, whether in person or online, should cover all the proposal activities and elements listed on this slide. You can use this slide as a starting point in preparing an agenda. A much more detailed discussion of these items and the detailed proposal process will be covered in a webinar this spring and is also available as customized training. Writing a proposal without first preparing, at a minimum, a detailed outline or proposal storyboard as shown here usually results in costly rewrites and painful proposal reviews. The topic of how to develop proposal storyboards as well as how to craft themes and discriminators is beyond the scope of the time we have. However, one point about the importance of proposal graphics. Some government proposal evaluators prefer to read text, while perhaps an equal number are impacted more positively through the use of graphics, tables, figures, and diagrams. Winning proposals often consist of a balance between the two. It is important to know what your target customer might prefer. For instance, a research proposal might lend itself to a more complicated thesis-like proposal, as opposed to a bid to a client service-focused agency that might not involve subject matter experts as reviewers. Proposals should tell a story at the level of the average potential reviewer in a way that clearly explains your company's solution. Once you've been awarded a contract, a whole new aspect of business development begins: successful project execution and client satisfaction. I've implemented the project management process at several small and large companies. In general, it remains an area in need of improvement at many companies. And so this will be another topic for a 2012 webinar. But I don't want to downplay the importance of project execution to your long-term business growth strategy. It's worth remembering that it costs a lot less to win follow-on business with a satisfied client than to find a new one. So implementing a streamlined project manager process can pay huge dividends. Make sure to transfer the knowledge that was gathered during the capture and proposal process to the project staff members in charge of delivery. Know your contract and always keep the client's overall mission and objectives in mind, while of course managing to your contract technical, schedule, and cost baseline. Don't wait until the recompete of your contract to make necessary project improvements and to have honest communications with your client. It's too late when the RFP comes out to improve on your problems. Do this and your client will give you new business referrals and hopefully follow-on business. Weekly and monthly company or business unit reviews should be held for all active opportunities in the lead, qualified, capture, and proposal underway and submitted phases. It is difficult to hold people accountable for growing your business if you don't regularly measure their results. There are, of course, many other critical components of a successful growth strategy. I've helped improve the BD process at over 60 government contractors, so please feel free to contact us at Centurion to discuss your business development, training, or coaching needs. Here is a list of our online and in-person workshops, all of which are tailored to your organization's specific needs and challenges. I hope you can join me on January 10th, where I will discuss how you can leverage partnerships by discussing teaming and subcontracting fundamentals and lessons learned. I've posted answers to some of your questions on our LinkedIn group at the web address shown here. Also, feel free to email one of the individuals shown on this slide for further information. A copy of today's slides is available at the web address listed here, and a recording of this session will be uploaded by the end of the day. I'll leave this slide up for the next 5 minutes. So until January 10th, I thank you for your attention. Have an enjoyable and safe holiday season, and of course, happy hunting.
Mike, thank you very much. Really appreciate all the information that you shared with us today. I also see there are lots of folks that have posted several questions to the actual briefing today. What I'd ask is that you post those questions to the LinkedIn discussion group, and we'll get to those answers there. Once again, thank you very much. We appreciate everybody attending today.